Welcome to the Selling in the Motor Trade podcast, in association with Symco Training. This is the weekly podcast where we share best practice, tips and ideas on how to sell more cars, improve your service department, and generally put more profit into your dealership or dealer group. I'm your host, Simon Bowkett. Now, some of you probably already know me as Skippy. I would start by saying thank you for taking the time to listen to this podcast. Love it. Yeah. Hey, listen, let's get into what you're really known about. I think this is right, but business development incentives, okay?
Yeah.
I want to get your views on this because there seems to be two schools of thought. Do you have that internet lead department? Now, be that a person in the corner of the dealership? Is it a whole department because it's a big dealer group, one of our big dealer groups we work with? What's the approach? Does the actual internet salesperson take the lead from the start to the finish? Because surely they're building the rapport with that customer. They've gone from the digital inquiry to the text. The text, they've earned the right to get a phone call. They've built rapport over the phone. I want to deal with you, Elise. But then they get handed over to Bob. And Bob's sitting there thinking, oh, goodness me, it's just another shit lead from the digital response team. This is going to be a load of crap. It's such a minefield. What's the right response? Should the digital response team take it from the start to the finish, or should they hand it over to the salespeople and they just get the appointments? That's all they do. Or are you going to have to sit on the fence on this one? What's your views?
A large part of it, a large part of it has to do with your lead volume count against your sales staff, right?
Yeah. Okay.
Given though, like that you have those configurations down in a perfect scenario, I would say that you have a hybrid of both, because there always is going to be a scenario on a busy Saturday or just a crazy, like, whoa, that was a crazy, busy day where everybody that handles internet leads is with customers.
Mm-hmm.
So then in the meantime, you still have customers that are going online and the leads are popping in your CRM. But you need to almost have a backup or a hybrid of a BDC or somebody that is always going to be able to handle the leads under a certain, if it's not handled by a cross-trained salesperson, right, within a certain amount of minutes. So I would almost have a hybrid so that you always have coverage, meaning your responses are they're always being responded to, because even if everybody's busy on the showroom, you're right, you have a process put into place so that the lead still gets handled, within 5 minutes. Ideally a salesperson in modern day times should know how to play both positions, point guard, as I call it, which is the skill set of a BDC to set their own appointment so that they can basically hand the ball to themselves as now a forward to get their slam dunk.
Good analogy. So
yeah,
true.
I'm like Michael Jordan was like greatest of all time. Some people are going to argue with that here, but
I just had someone speaking to today, did all the hard work and built rapport, and the customer's absolutely loving her, loving her. And she's handed over to a Bob, and she's just like, Bob's not going to do nothing with this. Bob's not going to do it. And she's chasing through all the time there. And it's just like, right, keep on dealing with it then. Just take them out of the market.
And then it almost, so much of what I feel like happens is you have this like sales against BDC, and the BDC's going, well, it's Bob's fault that the customer didn't close. So why do I want to bring in customers? And Bob's not even going to close them and give them the time of day. And then meanwhile, you have the sales team that's going, well, the BDC is just bringing in whoever, just saying whatever, just to get them here. And so it's, when you have when you have a person that's cross-trained where like you can't give yourself your own excuses, because that's your customer all the way through. It's not only better in that sense, but the customer's perception, I think a lot of times it's still almost like, when I play the Elise Timberlake role where I'm never going to meet this customer ever, right?
Yeah.
And I'm setting the appointment, but I also have a huge trust, obviously, when I work leads, that when I pass it to Jared, like that we're on the same page. Like that's the core part of it. If you have a BDC in sales, remove that against each other and realize like, bro, we are all on the same page. Right. But when you have somebody that's cross-trained and can do both, that is I think that's the ideal situation, but making sure that you have a BDC for backup. Like you always have your leads are always being managed, even if everybody's busy with customers in the showroom. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Hey, listen, I think you've talked about this before, and I just want to confirm that I've got it right in my head there. All too often I get salespeople that want to do one email and it's going to magically sell the customer a car. And they put everything in the one email. It goes into, I hope you're completely satisfied with the service, because they want CSI scores that are good. They talk about how we've been going for 460 years and we sold 18,000 cars every week, and we're the best people in the world, and here's my awards there, and one email to cover everything, okay? And surely, and I'll get your views on what is the approach. Are people going to go straight from that digital inquiry to the appointment? Or should it be that digital inquiry to that phone? Well, to the text, as you said, to the phone, to the appointment, and earn the right there.
Yeah, because, no, you're, I'm, that's that extra step, that text. Like I used to ask customers, like in an email, you know, didn't see a phone number for me to call you. Like, I don't ask for the phone call in an email. If I don't have their phone number, I will ask for a phone number to text them. And I'm not going to break, but that's because my plan the whole time is knowing like it's baby steps, right? If they're going to ghost me over giving their phone number to me to text message them, they would have ghosted me over asking them for an appointment, asking them to talk on the phone that soon. Right. Yeah. So a large part of it in my brain is just this getting the trust walls to drop and knowing the probability of like, well, wait a minute, if they're going to ghost me over that, they would have ghosted me over any, like, you know, I don't want to just rush to my end goal.
Yeah. Well, that's hit the nail on the head. Rush to the end goal. Salespeople want to just do one email, done.
Yeah. That's a toxic trait.
They just want it now. But also speed of response. I mean, we have so many of these companies now that like rapid response, okay, call drip. And Elise, I see them over here. Don't get me wrong. I love these companies. I kind of hate them. Okay, I'm sorry that Alistair out there, I know you're listening to this at the moment, but this is why I love them, because it makes it quick and easy for a salesperson to respond to that customer. However, these companies are brilliant at selling to an OEM. And let's say you're at Toyota UK.
Yeah.
And that customer gets an inquiry, sends it to 6 Toyota dealerships. And they should all start with the same paragraph. I can read them. So thank you very much for inquiry on that Corolla. It's an excellent choice. I'll be happy to tell you more about it. But I'm just sitting here, bloody hell, the customer's got that same paragraph, that same response from 6 different people. Then you've got the See It Now videos, okay? I can tell you exactly what it is off the top of the head, because I read it so many times. Rather than a few photographs, I've prepared a personal video presentation of the car. It's an opportunity to see the car in more detail. And it's the same one that customers get again and again. So I want to get your views on speed of response is important. Okay, where does video fit into this process? And these companies where they use these scripted approaches. Can't customers smell that scripted approach, Elise?
So the psychology that I found, right? And I don't, in the same way that I don't like the word scripts, I don't like the word templates, because immediately your brain goes to canned, repetitive, and so forth. And you're exactly right. When you know, a dealership uses a template that's sort of blasted into other competing dealerships, you put yourself in the customer's shoes, and like you said, all these emails sort of look pretty much the same, and you sort of wonder, like, who's the company? Like, I mean, just like who it's you know, but the reasoning for that, like you said, is because of like speed and efficiency. But if you're going to use any type of template, it should work, and the customer should not know that it's a template. There's a quote, and I don't know who said it, but I remember reading it a very long time ago, almost I think in middle school, and it said, when they give you lined paper, write the other way. And so using that same kind of method, if every Toyota dealership or every Chevrolet is writing the same thing, you got to figure out, especially if in email only scenarios where that's all you have, you don't have a phone number at all. Like, how can I write? How can I stand out in a busy inbox? And that has, and you also have to take the acceptance of, especially if you only have an email, one email is not going to cut it. My methods aren't everybody from the outside, and I think probably thinks that they're very, very intense. But so much of what you're saying in the email matters. Like, what is it something that everybody else is writing? And more importantly, like, what are you asking in the email? Like, what are you trying to pitch? Because that isn't going to work. The concept of selling, I always found, is when it's the customer's idea to do something, right? Like, then, but it's their idea. And so if you want them to respond to you, then it has to be their idea, right? Like, it has to be their idea. So the context of what you're saying in those emails absolutely matters. And but if you're going to use a template, it should, the psychology, the magic trick to it should be like, did you know it was a template? Like, did it actually work? And did you know it was a template until I told you?
Are you able to tell us about your AI approach that you're working on?
Yeah. So I've there's a CRM, Vin Solutions. It's a Cox Automotive CRM, and it's really the only one as of right now where I've been able to sort of build this. But the concept of it was, if you figure as an internet rep or a BDC, when you're trying to get that engagement, right, or that heart, my last name's Kephart, so that heartbeat, as I call it, from the customer, that first heartbeat. And not only that, but you want it like in a very, like, the most efficient time period, right? I don't even like to go 3 or 4 days out. Like, I want that response, that first response, within the first 2 days, because I found the farther that you get the first response, the higher your probability of them telling you things like, I bought elsewhere, increases, right? So I don't want that. I want this sweet little spot of like 2-day response. How do I do that? Well, it involves whatever dealership you're at, whether you're BDC or cradle to the grave, it involves a combination of emails, texts, and the telephone. And that's assuming that the customer, like, obviously has a phone number, right? So those three ways of, like, you're sort of like nudging the customer, and you have to take this acceptance. And I started to really build out, this is a lot of work, because it's not just one email, it's not just one phone call, it's not. So if I take those 3 types of communication attempts, right, and my concept was, if I could automate 2 out of the 3, right, under the principles that you didn't know that they were automated or that they were templated, and also under the principle that it actually works, meaning I can show you a fresh screenshot right now if we hopped into a CRM, right, where a customer responded predictably and probable in my favor, right? So I sort of just built that out, and that's the concept of it, is that to get the first heartbeat of the customer, I wanted to eliminate like 80% of the labor that how do you solve a salesperson's problem? How can I get you the result with the least amount of work possible? Right? Like,
that's so true. That's what they want. Yeah.
And because otherwise, like, my process is very intense, because I do have a pretty rigorous process to make sure that I get that response in 2 days, because I want it in 2 days, because at that point, again, I found that it's just higher probability the customer gives me something that I don't want to hear after 2 days. So, emailing in high volume without the customer getting upset or pissed off at you, there's a skill set to it, right? And there's a deeper same thing with text messaging, right? Same thing with the time that it takes to leave a voicemail. So how many voicemails do you leave? Like, same thing with, like, how you're dialing, right? What numbers are you calling the customer on? There's so many security features on phone calls, on cell phones now, right? Like, silence unknown callers, fitness mode, like focus mode, work mode, like a lot of these things you don't have the control to just turn off on that consumer's phone. So, but you do want to know if they have that on, because if they have silence unknown callers on, it doesn't matter how many times you call them from what line, their phone's never going to ring for you, So I've just I built my AI and to sort of fix that, to solve a salesperson's problem, is what it was designed to do. How can I get them the result that they want with the least amount of work possible? And so it eliminates it. Basically what I did is I put a lot of, like, 6 months of just a lot of crazy work and almost like imaginary conversations, I guess, because the concept is, like, even when I teach it now, I like to write in an envelope what's going to happen before it happens. And then that's how I built my templates, like to know what the customer is predictably going to say before
That particular response rate. And you speak to enough customers, you know what they're going to, yeah.
You start to really break down like conversation, like you and I are just chit-chatting right now, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't necessarily, I'm not looking at it in a psychology way where I want you to say something, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if I wanted you to respond positively, right, then your reaction is going to be off of what I say or what I ask, what question I ask, if you look at it in that sense. So when you're doing that digitally, it's kind of the same thing. Everything that I've automated, it's worded in a certain way to make it not seem like it's a template of any kind.
Mm-hmm.
But also like the core context or question or whatever I'm asking is something that the customer can't get upset about. I always look at things like, when does a Kevin or Karen customer, as I call it, like pop up, right? Like
yeah.
what if they say something where it's like, oh my gosh, like you hear these phone calls or you read these text messages, then it's like, if you rewind the tape, what did the salesperson or the BDC rep say before that?
Yeah.
Right. And then it's almost like this rewind of, well, don't do that. Right. If you don't want the customer to do this, don't do that. But if you want the customer like to not be a Kevin or Karen, like what do I reword? What do I say? What's the context of what I'm saying to trigger that response? Right. So yeah.
Listen, Tom Stuker. We interviewed Tom Stuker, and he talked about words and phrases and telephone many years ago.
Oh yeah.
I've caught up with him plenty of times at NADA, and he's a character. He's definitely a character, and there's lots of that. But again, he was always talking about through an incoming sales call, like where you calling from, home or work, and your number there is, and there's lots of psychology. We've got to put the same stuff into the digital response. And because we know that works in phones, so it's the same thing you got to look at on the digital side. I'm guessing that's what we need to get smarter with that to get the responses.
Well, and most people just train, it's this bucket of, oh, you made contact to get the appointment. And so you see agents all the time just say like, a customer opts in for text. And it's like, hey, when do you want to come down for your test drive? And it's like,
Well,
right.
Well,
there's
the other one I see all the time, because like yourself, part of our program is we're dealing with salespeople all the time. We listen to all the calls are recorded, incoming and outgoing. We check on the Dory system, and we do that coaching. So it sounds very similar to what you're doing. You call it aftercare, did you call it? The
aftercare, yeah.
Yeah, aftercare, cool. So that's part of our program. That's our bread and butter of what we do. Yeah. Okay. So our trainers, there's 6 of us. So we're a small company. But I tell you what, so many times it frustrates me where everything is an inquiry comes through and the phone number is no number, or their phone number is 012-345-678. And our salespeople, our BDCs, everyone just says, if you want the best price, you need to call me. If you want to know what your car's worth, you need to call me. If you want anything, you need to call me. And it's like, no, they're not. If they wanted to call, they would have called. Okay? Yeah. And also, then I've got salespeople say, yeah, well, they're not bloody serious, are they? Okay. If they were serious, they would have given me a phone number. It's like, no, they might be doctors, nurses, dentists, working jobs that they can't take a call throughout the job there. And it's I get my high horse now, my bugbear that frustrates me there. Any tips or advice? I think you've given lots of tips there as to how to get the customer that just leaves no number or 01235. I think what I'm hearing is you can't just say, call me. That's not going to work, is it?
No, you're jumping to the gun there. If you think about something that a customer would agree to is to move your relationship from an email to a text, right? Yeah. You're not threatening them with like, oh, a salesperson calling them on the phone. Oh no, we don't want that. We do want that, in fact, but it comes after the text message, right? It's progression again, because if they're going to ghost you over giving their phone number to text message, they for sure as heck would have ghosted you if you would have asked for a phone call. But you have to earn that right, and they have to see a reason on why still they should share their phone number to text message, right? So something that I sometimes will text is like, hey, I apologize, I want to make sure to get you max value. It was showing you have a 2010 Honda Civic. Does this sound correct so far? And then like PS, I know your day may be crazy, is, you know, our Wi-Fi sometimes isn't the greatest. Is there a number that I can text you on so that you know it's me here at the store?
Love it.
Right? Those are two now easy questions, and they can't get mad at you and say, and in their mind, they might be thinking, oh, that number was too low. Because you've already beat them to their own punchline, and you've asked them an easy question on where you've earned the right of like, hey, it's almost like the translation be like, Simon, bro, I want to help you out. Can you just let me know like that this is like the right vehicle?
It's
yeah.
love it.
And then also the question of, you know, texting, again, it's a much tamer than like an evasive phone call. But keep in mind, the texting is to progress it at the end of the text to a phone call.
Again, have I got this right? So you wouldn't, if the salesperson has the text, they wouldn't just phone then, would they? Because if you're saying you're going to text, you must text. Please tell me that you know what I'm trying to say, because I wouldn't want a salesperson then got the number to text them by false pretenses. They've still got to go through the texting, haven't they?
Yeah. I
just know some salespeople say, oh, forget that. Then I've got their number now. I'm just going to go straight and phone them.
So it's you know, I compare it to if a lot of the sales teams that I work with, they're mostly male, right? So I kind of give them a little insight to the female perspective. And I say, gentlemen, like, how many of you are married or in a relationship and your lady has ever texted you, you're in a little spat, and your lady has texted you the text message back, K period, right? And they go, oh, right. And I go, let me just give you a little insight on that text. That wasn't their original thought. It was a long passive aggressive text that we tamed down. We put some emojis, we wiped out the whole thing and then just wrote K periods. And that is what you got. So if you use that same principle in sales to consumer, if you're trying to close over text, you know, unless you're just not good on the phone, texting is never going to be a live conversation, and you always give the customer a strong control or strong probability to always put their phone down, to manipulate their response, think about their response, backspace their response. So it's all the more reason why it's like I've really dove into like, how do I progress a digital to like to bring it to a phone call? Because less and less, like, I don't think a lot of phone trainers may say this, but less and less people are blindly picking up their phone. No, which means like you because of silence, unknown callers, and all these things. So you have to know, how do I progress? How do I like progress this text message still to a phone call? Because a live call is going to be your best close. It's a live conversation.
Elise, I don't know if you'll remember this, but the very first time I phoned you, I think, I'm not sure who gave me your number, but it was one of the contacts on the podcast. He said, speak to Elise. I said, brilliant. I'd love to have her on the podcast. So I phoned you. Now, of course, I would have phoned from a UK number. And you just said, hello? Hi, is this Elise? And you went, it depends. Who is this? I thought, of course, I'm sounding like some stalker here. Because the number would have come up as a weird number as well, wouldn't it?
Well, yeah, but I get like all these like African, like, you know, normally it's like, but you're
the Nigerian prince.
And that, yeah, right. And so it just so happened, you know, but a lot of times because you get so many crazy calls these days, like I'll put on like silence unknown callers or, you know, things like that. So yeah, I did. That's so funny you brought that up. I do remember that.
We're going back a while there, but it was just like, and I thought, of course, there's a weird number. You'd have no idea who it is. I got this weird accent. It could be, the joke is over here, the Nigerian prince that says he's got millions to put in your bank account. All I need is your bank account details, please, or something like that.
That's it.
Yeah, that's the one. You know the one. Okay, listen, while I've got you on the phone, I'm loving your advice. Any quick hacks for the customer that ghosts you? And what I mean by that is your salesperson's done the video, they've been in contact with them, and they've just gone cold. Okay. How do we get them live again?
Oh, this is a great question, because I'm just coming off the cuff of doing this like on site. So here's an example. Let's say missed appointment, right? So however you're looking at a lead in the CRM, and they had an appointment and they didn't show up. Well, most processes are like, you call and go, hey, you know, just wanted to see when you want to reschedule. And that's you're back doing the same thing of like an anxiety driven question. Like the customer knows they didn't show up to their appointment, or maybe in their head, like they forgot about it or whatever. But if you want to get that customer's attention back, right? you need to go back under the same principles of whatever I'm asking them has to be something instinctual, something that's not going to give them anxiety, and something that actually matters. So, or that's relevant to like your last conversation. So one of the, so what we actually did like for a couple customers was, let's say when they set the appointment, you know, they talked to the rep about a trade-in, right? They had a trade-in, and it was like a, you know, 2015 Chevy Equinox, like four-wheel drive, right?
Yep.
So a way to get that customer who missed their appointment, a way to get them just back engaged that they can't get upset about, is to bring nothing up about their missed appointment that's going to cause them anxiety, but to say something along the lines of, let's say when you leave a voicemail, you can say, you know, hey Simon, it's Elise over here at ABC Motors. Hey, I forgot to mark this down about your Equinox from our last call. Did you have both key sets or was it just one? I'm just going to mark this down here. If you can give me a call back at the store, let me know over text. I'm going to swing a text message over your way if it's easier. Let me know there. And I'm looking forward to helping out. And like, that's now what you're going to write over text, right? Where it's like, from where you last talked, the customer was like doing research on whatever, maybe trading in their vehicle or what have you. And that's something that they're instinctually going to be able to answer, something that matters, something that is non-threatening, right?
Yeah.
And that's going to get you the in to get the engagement. If they're going to ghost you over that question, they're going to ghost you over anything else, right? So that's kind of the mentality that I use on and like, so same thing with like with it, if I were to do a video on that, I would just like even just make it and show my screen and just like say like, hey, I wanted to check this off. Like, and if you stick to that, if you stick to that easy instinctual question and just even to get re-engagement, right? I use it all the time. And the mindset is, who in their right mind would actually call you back to let you know? They're not going to call you back anyway. Who would call you back though to let you know they have 2 key sets, and you're kind of setting yourself up for the re-engagement like over texts, right? So that would be my recommendation is always ask yourself, what am I actually asking the customer to do? And is it like giving them anxiety, right? Narrow down, keep your question instinctual and something easy for them to answer. Yeah.
Cool. Hey, listen, Rapid, I'm loving conversation like this and kicking around ideas on how do we get the best response. So I want to ask you this. Are we as salespeople, and this is a loaded question, are we the dinosaurs? Are we going to go from mouse to house? I see Carvana has lost something like 97% of its value in the last 12 months. Is it because they can't get stock, or are people given up on the mouse to house? What's your views on that? Are we always going to be around in the future as car salespeople?
I think first off that in you know, Vroom and Carvana and companies like that, they're very clever in the sense that they know that for the consumer world, the stereotype of a salesperson for a very long time, of a car salesperson, especially for a very long time, is this, I mean, you can Google it. It's like the Danny DeVito character from Matilda, right? Just like sleazy, you know, like lies, cheats, and all of that. So they took that emotion, I feel like, or that stereotype of a salesperson, and they created this facade of a solution to the consumer, right? Eliminate, like take out, and the reality of it is like, that's not really what they actually do as a company, like from this perspective, right? The customer doesn't save any more money. And especially with, you know, with so many things that you like, if you're gonna spend that kind of money, I feel like you always want to make sure that you have a person or a company or a place that you can like go back to. I feel like if you need to work anything out, right? Not just call like I mean, even I tried to cancel my Apple Watch one time, and like they just gave me a number on Verizon to call. I couldn't do it in person, and like I never got through to anybody, and it was so frustrating that I ended up just keeping the, you know, $10 a month subscription open like since, because like I could never get it canceled. So just having, you know, I think that's a huge part. I think companies like that, they're trying to solve a problem for the consumer. But if anybody that works at those companies, or I've said it from the beginning, like sit in a BDC, sit in an internet sales department at a dealership for a whole day. And as much as we would like to tease ourselves and say, oh, the customer just wants a click and drive and ready to buy, like then please explain to me when somebody gives their blood type and fills out a credit application, why we still have to call them more than once, why we still have to chase them, why we still have to like do all these things to get them to respond to us, because they're ready to buy, right? I mean, they just gave you their credit information, for crying out loud, yet we still have to chase. So whatever that bridge is of like consumer to dealer, where we still got to chase, whenever that gets solved, I think we can progress into this whole full digital retail model. But there's still always the chase game, and I don't understand it. I don't have answers on why it's like that, but
so wrapping up, Elise, if you bought your own dealership or dealer group, what would you focus on the first 90 days of owning that dealership or dealer group? And the reason why I asked that question, someone listening to this thinking, because you're in dealerships all the time, you see the good, the great, you see the dealerships that punch above their weight. Okay. So if you bought your own dealership, where would you start in the first 90 days?
I would, in the same way that I feel like the perception of working at Google, right, is like this like great, fantastic place to work, right? Where I would start with the team, like the whole dealership, not just the sales team, not just the service, like, but the entire store. You know, I would want the culture to be where this is like the dealership that everybody in the whole country wants to work at, right? Because of its people and because of its processes, right? And making sure that your team from every angle is like, I would want the people on the same page, right? The people that, even if you're not the MVP right away, that are going to always be willing to adapt, right? And be part of that. So getting the people right would be the first thing. And then so much of, I feel like the biggest, I think, niche that I would have a big part of would be just streamlining the internet process that I've just been sort of working at the last 10 plus years, to where you just have a powerhouse. You know, anything that we teach or that we do, it's not like you're just born like that. Like you learn it, and it is scalable, right? But you have to have the right team and the right people and the right culture in place. But that's ideally what I would want. I would want to have a store where it's like, in the consumer mindset, it's like the place to buy cars, right? Because of the people, and because it's like so seamless, and like it's not a typical car dealership. And then from an employee or from a team standpoint, it's like the place that everybody like wants to work. Like you would pack up your bags and move your family to work there because of the people and the processes.
Brilliant. Listen, and last tip, is there any tip, the salesperson listen to this, if you could give them just one tip to go back in place and say, they remember, this is Elise Kephart, she taught me this, that they can go and put in place immediately and get a result. What one tip would you leave for them?
The one tip I would leave for them would be to, video is a huge thing. If you're not doing video, just start right now. There's no excuse to. Video is the easiest thing amongst the different skill sets, including the phone. But pick up your camera. You know, if they're listening to this and so forth, it's probably on their smartphone. So it's like that same smartphone that you can do so much in building your brand as a salesperson, so that you're the go-to in your space. Be the celebrity in your space. Yeah, you do it right from your smartphone.
Love it. How do people find you? What's the easiest way for them to reach out to you and talk to you about your AI product and what you do and all of that?
Elise at elisekephart.com. So it's my first name and then my website, elisekephart.com.
And of course, we'll have a link as well, so you guys, exactly how it works there. So we will contact us. We'll get you in contact with Elise as well. Don't phone her from a foreign number, though. Okay, so don't do that. Definitely say do it. Use text. First.
I guess I could say my phone number is it's wild. I haven't changed. It's the first phone that I got when I was in high school, when my dad like put me on his cell phone plan at 18.
Same number. Wow.
Yeah, same number. So it's, all the things that we talk about, like, I feel like my number is on so many just random lists out there at this point.
Yes.
So
Yep.
but yeah, that's the best way to reach me. I'm so glad that you had me on. It was
I really enjoyed that. There's so much good advice there, and guys, please forward this to all your team. Okay, there's so many nuggets in there that Elise's talked about. So please forward this on to your team. Keep liking the podcast. We really do appreciate everything. So Elise, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Thanks for that.
You.
Bye.
All right. Bye.
That just leaves me to say that all details of this episode and other episodes on the selling in the motor trade can be found on our website, symcotraining.co.uk. Go there to get a copy of our book, Words That Sell Cars. Go there to sign up to a free trial of our Sales Fitness online sales training program. Easiest way to get hold of me is Simon Bowkett through LinkedIn. Thank you.